Pleased this evening to make my contribution to this year's budget presentation. More than a pleasure, however, it is, I am fully aware, my duty to provide an even further perspective on the comprehensive summary prepared by the Honorable Minister of Finance, Mr. Winston Jordan. The 2019 budget is a special one in many ways. It is special in that it is the budget that marks the end of a particular period in our economic history, the budget that prepares us for the transition to what will be a transformative era, where we stand to become, in a tangible way, the mythical El Dorado that we have long aspired to be. As the Minister of Finance noted, this is the penultimate budget of the first 5 years of this administration and of the 50th anniversary of our status as a republic. It is a budget, therefore, in which we as a government make a case to the people that we are worthy of the stewardship of this beautiful nation, not simply into our next 5 years as the executive, but into our second half century as an independent republic. There can certainly be no argument that the broad vision is there, a good life for all Guyanese and a green economy. There can be no argument that the policy that supports and extends this vision is being created and implemented every day, from the Green State Development Strategy, currently in its final stages of preparation, to, among other things, the provision in the upcoming year's budget for the removal of the value-added tax and duty on the importation of vehicles intended for the use of persons with disabilities. It is not enough in itself, however, to have a grand vision or progressive policy. We must ensure that we have the muscular capacity to carry out that vision, or it will collapse. When it comes to the implementation of the policy that will take us into the future, the programs that make this generous budget meaningful to the citizens of the country, that muscular capacity rests in the public service, and the responsibility for ensuring that this capacity is kept optimal resides in my portfolio, the Ministry of the Public Service. This year's appropriation of $1.95 billion, almost 30% more than the current year's expenditure and 60% more than 2017's, represents this administration's commitment. I turn to the Planning and Analysis Unit. Mr. Speaker, produced last year is simple: to provide evidence-based planning and oversight opportunities offered to Guyanese, with a special focus on ensuring that they are funded. This unit hit the ground running with its first critical task being the establishment of a priority training area matrix that distributes priority subjects across a range of available institutions and partners. For example, with the United Kingdom, our primary and public service academic and training opportunities, a comprehensive gamut of priority areas has been established. In the oil and gas 2018 scholarship opportunities focused on master's degrees in petroleum data management, petroleum exploration, and oil and gas technology. In the thematic area of information management, master's degrees were offered in a range of areas, including records management, document analysis, software engineering, and cybersecurity. In addition to degrees offered in the health and agricultural sectors, priority areas also included heritage, museum studies, archives restoration and management, as well as social cohesion, mediation, and conflict studies. Turning now to development and operations. With regard, Mr. Speaker, to the general operations of the Ministry of Public Service, the training division, based on a needs analysis initiative undertaken by the Planning and Analysis Unit, has undertaken several measures to enhance public servant training locally. There's been a modern upgrade of the training room with more work still to be done, an aesthetic and catalog upgrading of the Ministry of the Public Service Special Library, the implementation of monitoring and evaluation measures developed to assess the impact of training in order to gauge overall achievements and to plan future interventions. And all of this with a deliberate focus towards having training programs complement the 2018 Education Month theme, Education for a Good Life, the Innovation and STEAM. With regard to enhancing the management of information in the department, an increased investment was made in the provision of internet services by switching to high-speed internet provided by the National Data Management Authority. Turning to the Bertram Collins College. Mr. Speaker, when this administration came into office, one of the first commitments made by His Excellency President Granger that there should be a professionalized public service began at the level of induction. Out of this vision came the concrete institution, the Bertram Collins College of the Public Service. The first batch of 58 cadets from around the country graduated in December of 2017, 1 year ago, and the second batch of 60 cadets began their program in November of last year. One of the primary missions of the college, Mr. Speaker, is in addition to ensuring that adequate capacity is developed in the public service from an entry level, but to also ensure that capacity is equitably distributed around the country according to regional needs. Towards that end, cadets are recruited from around the country and on completion of their programs are placed in public service institutions in the region of their origin. Complementary to that purpose is the inclusion of study tours into the curriculum covering regions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8 in order that cadets have a sense of the scope of the national public service and the needs or regions outside of their own. For 2019, the ministry intends to improve the facilities of the college by the acquisition of a new 30-seater bus to facilitate student transport, equipment to assist in transition to the institution's smart classroom initiative, enhancement to the training building at Ogle, and the procurement of additional, more cost-effective living facilities.
Booking.com has all kinds of stays because a city hotel is right for some, but not quite.
This song is specially dedicated to the high and the mighty, the weak and the strong, to everyone, everywhere. Whenever death comes, as you know he must, I say, would you beg for time to scrape a few things first? Would you say he's impertinent? He should have make appointment. Beggars lying all about, with fly buzzing round them out. Would you tell Basil go and check them out? Cause he don't go back once he comes. He don't take bribe of cash, no rum. If you just underpay or get short weight every day, fix that before he comes. I say confess before death. No, no, la, la, la. Whenever death comes, as you know he must, I say, would you watch the guy just so and start to cuss? Would you say you were kind to neighbors? You never always used to maintain your outside child. Cause he don't go back once he come. He don't take bribe of cash, no run. If you have fix that before he comes. Homes you broken, so cash no run. So if you does other pay or he short wait every day, fix that before he comes. I say confess before death comes. Confess before he come like a thief in the night. Make sure your business right. Confess before he comes. When he make he attack,
Oh, and a very good evening to you, the mighty explainer. Fix that, fix that before that come, because when he comes, he not going back. Martin Carter, our national poet, saying the same thing in another poetic voice. He said, "Death must not find us thinking that we die." Today, on our Republic anniversary, we mourn the loss of one of the towering figures of the last 40, 50 years of our independence and our republic. I knew Rupert Roopnarine, Dr. Roopnarine, Brother Rupert, very closely. He was one of a group of men and women who helped to shape my perspective and the perspective of a generation or two. As everyone or most people would know, he had been ailing in recent years. But we took that in stride because his name meant so much. Even when he was not physically on the front lines, he was there because of his contributions. We live in a culture that finds it difficult to confront the reality of death. And so, as we mourn the loss of our brother, we do so with heavy hearts, but we remember that he made Guyana better. It's difficult to say that our country is better, but our country is better. I met Rupert Roopnarine in 1977 for the first time. I'd seen a glimpse of him. He had come to Buxton to tape an interview with Brother UC for a film called The Terror and the Time, a history of decolonization in Guyana. But I got to know him closely from 1977 when he returned home permanently. And he had always been one of my favorite persons. And there were so many of them that we took example from. And each one of them played his role or her role. And as we said in our statement today, the thing I remember most about Rupert Roopnarine was that he transcended race. And those of you who know me know that I would not say that lightly, because Race is race, ethnicity is ethnicity. You can't wish that away. A lot of people try to wish it away. But Rupert Rupnarine was one of those persons that transcended race. They said I have race on my mind, but I never considered Rupert Rupnarine an Indian, an East Indian. Never. I have to bounce my head to try to put that. No, he didn't have to say a word. You just have to watch him in an African community, and he was a frequent visitor to Buxton. And just to watch Rupert connect with African Guyanese, it stunned me into a sense of hopefulness when I saw it. And it was something that few people are able to do that. Few, very few people. And there's so many other qualities to that brother that we will remember, we will cherish, but that one will stay with me forever, for as long as I have breath. In the coming days, we are going to reflect, as we must, because the culture permits us and demands that of us, that we try to place our brother in his proper perspective and the perspective of the larger society. Many people take the name APNU for granted today. Many people. It's a household name now. Rupert Rupnarine coined it. And he worked tirelessly to bring together two political enemies of yesteryear. He invested time and energy in it. He believed that we fought yesterday so that we could fight together today for our country. Welcome to Politics 101. It's Monday night, it's Republic Day, it's Mashramani Day. Everything is happening. A couple of days ago on the 20th, Guyana, the PNC, remembered Forbes Burnham. And here we are talking about Burnham and Rupnarine and independence and Mashramani and Republic, all in one breath. And many people will go back and look at the tangled history of 40 years ago. Some people look at that history to demonize others. Rupert would want me, he would want us to look at that history not to demonize, but to try to make our Guyana a place that is tenanted by all those who shed their blood, and physically and metaphorically, to bring us to where we are. Everything is happening. Just a few hours ago, an Indian Guyanese with a little ball, maybe 9 ounces in hand, spun webs around the opponent to move our Caribbean closer to glory on the cricket field. And an African with bat in hand turned genius, belting that ball to all corners of the Wankiri to move us closer to glory. Dave Martin sang about Hooper and Chandra Paul. Moti, and Hetmaya, Rupnarain and Burnham, we can be better. We will be better. When the dust is settled and the coarse words go back into the paddock, our Guyana and the promise that generations made will still be there to be materialized. Our guest tonight is already on screen, needs no introduction. Brother GHK, what a day. What a day. I wouldn't start with a question. I wouldn't start with any lead-in. Just ask you to talk about today. You're muted.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, my brother. I'm seeing a new side to you. It definitely registers with me that it is a heavy moment for you. The passing of Rupert Rupnarain, friend, colleague, comrade, Mashermani Day. When we decided on what we're going to talk about today, Mash and Rupert Rupnarain didn't feature, but now here we are. We start with our late departed brother. If you want a man to be in the trenches with you, I think you would want Rupert Rupnarain to be there. We have heard and we will hear that he was a scholar. I met him once. Unlike you, I think I met you twice. Unlike you, Dr. Hines, I met Dr. Rupnarain once, and it was on a picket line. And we chatted. But I sense a man of substance, not the superficial or what we call tap tap, but a man of essence, a man of resilience, a man of moment. And how my heart sings when I hear about a Guyanese, a African Guyanese, and indigenous Guyanese, and Indo Guyanese being genuinely for national unity. We've got a lot of talk about that. Harmony, unity. But do we? Do we? Rupert Rupnarain, Dr. Rupert Rupnarain, minister, professor, embodied what it is, what it was to be about national unity. For every word that I can tell you about Rupert Rupnarain, there is a David Hines to tell you 100, maybe 500. So I feel small for the occasion, but I must not retreat. I keep going and sharing about this brother that I barely knew, this fellow Guyanese, this fellow citizen, that can speak so transcendently, you said towering, so transcendently to what our ills are and how we must go about easing those. narrowing the gaps. I wish, and I too am in a solemn mood, mode today, tonight, because of our lost opportunities, because of our slipperiness. No hard words tonight. In memory, in honor of the memory of Dr. Rupnarayan, no hard words tonight. Yeah, we can be slippery where national unity is concerned. We could be deficient in our authenticity about what that means and what we have to do to get to it. We're going to have to make sacrifices. We're going to have to invoke the name of Burnham and Rupnarayan, whether we like it or not. We are going to have to, and David Hines and others of that ilk, who stood their ground, threw down the gauntlet, and said, "Here I am. Here I am." Rupert Rupnarayan said that, lived that, and left that legacy for us. I am privileged to say a few words to honor him tonight, and thank you for that opportunity. I wish it weren't so, but like the man said, when death comes, we've got to go. And here it is that we are on February 23rd, 56 years as a republic. As a republic. And where are we as a people, my fellow Guyanese, whether you are here in Guyana or in the diaspora, whatever section of the diaspora? Where are we as one people, one nation, one destiny? Oh, I hear about the new version, One Guyana. And I'm thinking of Mashramani, and I recall that it was a Burnham holiday. And when we say a Burnham holiday in this country, it is not in commendation, it is in disparagement, because it has that racial complexion, intonation about it. And I'm one of those who will say it. But today, the Burnham holiday, look who are behind the celebrations. The free food, the free money, the free music, the free liquor. Yeah, look who gets whom to do what. We're going to have more pride in ourselves. We may be purchasable, but we must not be purchasable that cheaply, that conveniently, that selectively, that opportunistically. I think Rupert Rupnarayan would have had a few bright words to say about that. I'm hearing the music, I'm hearing it in the background. I heard it all day, I heard it all week. And I'm saying that this country is really doing well. And one of the things I want to tell you, my fellow citizens, is this. I have, since last year, I've stopped telling people Happy Christmas and Happy New Year. And for the life of me, I haven't said to anyone today, have a happy Mashramani. Because what kind of fraud would I be then? What kind of a hollow man will I be then, knowing where the peoples of this country are, our brothers and sisters, when we have record budget after record budget, and our people still have their hands outstretched, not because of greed, but because of need. We are reported to be an oil-rich country quite accurately. And because of our small population, we've got this big, great, glorious GDP. where per capita we are among the richest in the world. And yet we've got, whether it's 28, 38, 48, or 58%, we've got Guyanese who on this MASH day don't know how tomorrow is going to be. And only remember with terror how today is and was. Are we living in a dream? Is this oil a mirage? Then why, if it's not a mirage, and it is not, then why is its wealth, its benefits, not coming down to all Guyanese? We're told about one Guyana. Oh, sounds like a unifier. But when some people get and some people don't, then how is that one Guyana? When there's rich and poor, when there's Indian on one side largely, and the rest of Guyana, black and indigenous, and Indian too, poor ones, and mixed, and Chinese, locals, then how is that one of anything? When we are divided by class and race, when we are deliberately divided along those lines, then how can you talk to me or any man with a head on his shoulders about one Guyana? This is what Rupert Rupner stood against. That kind of Guyana. This is what you and I know the two of us, where we stand, this is where all of us must stand. It is okay to be a PPP man or an APNU or PNC man or a WIN, whatever, FGM. But at the end of the day, we must be first and foremost a Guyanese man and woman. You, Dr. Hines, and many of you listening here, know here that I'm an Irish American or I'm a Chinese American. I'm an American. So why do we hear those hyphenations here? Now, I am Guyanese. First, foremost, always. And when we have Guyana in our heart, we are prepared to make the sacrifices, regardless of the pains that come. And they do come. And they do come. You know it, Rupert Rupner, I know it, and so do others who have gone down that thankless, tireless road that must be traveled. If we are going to get somewhere in this country with national unity, with a mashramani where all are participants because they belong around the table and have been identified and recognized as such, then we have come a far way. Oh, we can twiddle our thumbs and prattle and whatever about how much is being done for everybody, but let's do the comparison, the simplest of comparisons. Do the simplest of reconciliations, and we shall see where our Guyana is today. Pre-oil versus oil. In the middle of, we're going to 1 million barrels a day soon. We've come from 250, 270 to 750, and I hear 900 every now and again or more. And we are talking about 1 million barrels of oil a day in this country. And we are still talking about poverty, and we are still impressed with ourselves with dividing this society. I think that anyone who is for that, anyone who is about that, is really and truly not a Guyanese. Might not even be a human being. Forget about democracy. Might not have any humanity in them. Rupert Rupnarine had humanity in him. Mashramani should bring out the best in our humanity in us. I saw it in him. I heard it in him. I learned it about him. I'm not seeing it or hearing it about this Guyana that in which we live on Mashramani 2026, 56 years after we became a republic.
Brother GHK Lall here tonight, and tonight we are doing so much. We are celebrating our Republican status, 56 years. We're doing our Mashramani, our carnival. We're in the moment when only a few days ago, the admirers of Forbes Burnham celebrated his birthday. And tonight we mourn the loss of our brother, Dr. Rupert Rupnarain, seen in the picture there more than 50 years ago. Dr. Rupnarain, the late Andaye, and brother UC Kwayana, who's still going strong, soon to be 101 years. This picture go back a long time. Rupert, as most people know, he played many roles, some known, some not so known. He was integral, GHK, to the constitutional reform effort in 2001. He and Haslin Paris and Ralph Ramkaran played pivotal roles in realizing some of the changes we got to the Constitution. That much may not be known because some of these things are not celebrated. Rupert Rupnarain was a lecturer at the University of Guyana. He left his job there to become a full-time activist in the WPA. Many people don't know that. There is a general saying that when Walter Rodney died, the WPA died. You know, when Walter Rodney died, GHK, the WPA was not even a proper party. We were still a little group. We hastily became a political party in 1979. It was after Walter Rodney died that we built a party. We built party groups. We had party congresses. Rupert Rupnarain was one of our chief organizers, going up and down the country forming party groups. After Walter Rodney died, the myth is that the party died with Walter, or the party lived after Walter. And Rupert Rupnarain was centrally took on the mantle of leader of the party. Walter Rodney was seen as the premier leader. I remember as a small boy here in Kwayana saying, holding the hands of Rupnarain and Rodney and saying, they are the symbols of the new politics. And that was like tonic to a teenager ears. And we became part of that. We started tonight with Rupert speaking in Parliament and giving his budget speech in 2018, and I think he may have done one other budget speech, 2019, after then. By that time, he was becoming ill, which is a good segue, Gabriel, for us to talk about the $1.558 trillion budget that was passed a week ago. And it set tongues wagging. I was there for the first time in the National Assembly and witnessed the theater up front. I missed you because I came in one day and they told me that Terence Campbell told me, you know, GHK and the boys are out, they picketing the closure of Stabrook News, which we know has a political side to it. And I said, my God, and by the time I went out there, the police tell me, Dr. Hines, they just back up on guard. So I missed you all. I missed you all by a few minutes. But let's talk. We'll talk about Stabrook News later on. But let's talk about that budget. Your thoughts on that $1.558 trillion. I repeat it, for emphasis because that's a lot of money. You heard Dr. Rupnarayan there in the beginning talking about
Point nine.
1.9 billion dollars in 2000, what 2018. 8 years later, we are talking about $1.5 trillion. Talk to us, GHK.
It's funny, interesting you said that because as I'm listening to him, I said, here is a talking point that I got to pick up on, and here we are.
Yes,
Because he's talking about 1.9, I think 1.95 billion dollars public service ministry in 8 years ago.
yeah,
And now that sounds like such a negligible sum for
yes,
any ministry, for
yes,
any program, because now you're talking about 50 billion here and 100 billion here and 200, and before long, we've gone over again the 1 trillion threshold. We've gone past that threshold into one and a half plus 1.558. Aubrey Norton was at Stabroek Market Plaza Square recently. He said that the budget is for the rich, benefits the rich, the poor is lost. And we've had, we're talking about $1.558 trillion, and we had 1.382 trillion last year and 1.154 the year before. So $1 trillion budgets are not new to us. And what is also not new to us is how the people who need substance from their national budgets, their national financial plans under the present PPP government, are left empty handed. We hear about a pittance here, a couple of $1,000 more for pensioners, a pittance there for children, and we hear about these big fat lavish sums for infrastructure. We hear that the private sector is afforded consultative access to the government to decide, to discuss their thoughts on what should go into the budget. But the opposition isn't. Any section of the opposition, as far as I know, you correct me, or other stakeholders, the trade unions and whomever else, civil society. So from the time that happens, you know that the goose of the have nots in this country is cooked again. You know they're in for the long haul and the hard uphill struggle. By God, you got a budget of $1.558 trillion. Another record, another whopper. At least have the class, have the concern, have the care, so that Guyanese do not have to look out with their hearts in their hands for 100,000, a 500 US dollar cash grant. Yeah, I mean, we're not even going to go near to the theatrics and the obscenities of Parliament and who said what and who should have stopped what. Let me say this, we're talking money here. We're talking about what Guyanese, as among the richest people in the world, should have in their hands to be able to manage their day. And when you tell me you give $100 billion in excise exemptions or waivers so fuel can be cheaper, and we've got all these roads, and the people can't jump in a minibus and run to the market on those same modern roads because they don't have money to face the sellers. then this is not an oil rich country. This is not a caring government. This is not about leaders who are honest in their budget considerations. The budget is too tilted, too biased against the poor and too favorable to the rich, to the insiders. What we call them, 3Fs or 4Fs, friends, favorites, and
Family.
family. And I add a fourth F, fiends or crooks, right? You can add five more. So the fact of the matter is that you're going to have record budgets. You better have record provisions in there for the people. After you give them all of this, you didn't want to acknowledge that cost of living is a problem. You were concerned about inflation. Okay. So the very fact that after 5 years of record budgets, I think almost all of them were one record budget after the other.
Yes. Together
And
6.1 trillion the last
yes,
from
yeah,
2020 to now. Yeah.
yeah, about over $6 trillion. Good.
Yes.
And people are still hungry in this country. Then your policies and your programs must be acknowledged to be a failure. When you're going to tell people, when you cheat them, you cheat them of their cash grant last year, put it in this year budget, and you're going to crow about it later and say, "You see, we gave you $100,000." And we're telling you, must remember who. But you cheated them last year, and you haven't really provided for them this year. That is arrears money. That's money you owe me, right? So at the look, I'm not here to speak to the private sector or contractor class or insiders. They're well they're well taken care of. I'm here to speak for the people who I'm rooted in. They can be black, they can be brown, they can be bronze. They can be somewhere in between or outside of that matrix. The fact is, we have too many Guyanese in this country that are hurting. Record budget after record budget. Monies withdrawn, billions from the oil fund. Monies borrowed, more billions from different banks from Saudi Arabia to I don't know where, India or Australia. And still, our people, your people who look like you, Dr. Hines, and people who look like me, they can't go with confidence to the market or the supermarket and say, I want one of that. As a matter of fact, let me have two. This is this is not theory. This is reality. This is not politics. This is the pain of the people in this country. And unless we face up to what our budgets are doing and not doing, which we will never do under the current regime, then we aren't. We'll continue to be talked about by the world in glowing terms. Another well, another milestone in daily production, more profits for ExxonMobil, God bless them, and Guyanese losing the fight, losing ground daily in their battle to survive. This is not a battle against cost of living. This is a battle to survive. To survive, because when they go to the world class Georgetown Hospital and it doesn't have medicines, they better find that money from somewhere to go and buy it from a private pharmacy. When the children don't have enough to eat, something's got to give here. Today is Mashramani. And for those of you who are not here, the revelry and the celebratory business is going on. Monies are found there. There's a lot of floats passing around. National anniversary, Republic birth date, great stuff. Here's my thing. What happens for the rest of the year? We put on a big show. We are good at putting on shows. But how about showing some interest and some love and some honesty for those people who day after day in this country that is spoken of so glitteringly by the world? And those statistics are correct, folks. I can compute them, and I have, and they are. We talk about one Guyana in 2026 and before, and we can't tell our country, our people, Dr. Hines, about what's the poverty rate in this country.
Mhm.
We can't tell our people what is the demographic composition of Guyana. Then what can we tell them? Well, we tell them, oh, we got 1 million people, almost 900 and change. Is anything in that census depend reliable, credible, anything? And so we play games with words. We attack people and abuse them and demonize them, those who don't agree with us, and we still say this is a democracy. This is a republic where every citizen has an honored status. Well, I say to hell with that because it ain't so. Because I know, and you know, and all of us know who has relatives here or who live here. We are living a fraudulent existence. Our budgets are an expression of that farce. Our leadership is an expression of that unprincipled, unscrupulous way of governance. And our people are living in the decay that comes from those. Over to
GHK
you.
Lall. GHK Lall. Good evening to all of you on this March night. The floats are still going there on the road. Somebody, a couple of people have said they're on the float and they're still listening to Politics 101. They, they're mashing and they're still listening to Politics 101. Only Guyanese and Caribbean people can do it like that. GHK Lall here tonight, of course, giving us his thoughts on the budget, its thoughts on related issue. If I can pull you out a little, I um I posted your one of your most recent columns about appearing and disappearing on my page, and when I looked this afternoon before the program, it had 50,000 views and counting after 4 or 5 days being posted on my page. There must be a nerve that you hit with that. I'm sure it's read in the Kaitro News where it's originally published, but just on my page, 50,000 views in about 4 days. Talk to us about what you are saying in that column.
Well, I'm saying it was about our brother, Dr. Bharat Jagdeo.
Yes.
He said he's not sick, and I'm glad to hear that. And we are glad to hear that. We don't call sick pun people.
No.
We don't call sick pun people. So let's get that straight. Let's get that on the table and off the table. So it's good about that. But you are the chief policy maker. You are a vice president in charge of oil. And what is bigger than oil and gas in this country? The chief policy maker. If you are going to take a holiday because of work related stress or pressures, if you've got some competing interests that challenges your time, impedes in your time, then at least the nation is owed that little snippet of information. You just can't drop out of sight and then you make a reappearance. And all I can remember, I don't know if you remember this picture, Dr. Hines, El Cid with
Yes.
Rodrigo.
Yes.
They put you up on a horse and prop you up and they're parading you through the town, pretending that he was still around. Dr. Jagdeo made an appearance and I said, well, good, he's back. But he isn't back. He went right back into the slack wherever he was or whatever he's doing. And I hope he's doing constructive things there. Perhaps he's carving out some policies, etc., that does better for us. The man is too important, too much of a contributor to the PPP to just vanish off the radar. He, a former president, a former finance minister, a present vice president and chief policy maker, the soul, the soul of the PPP, general secretary. Oh man, you just can't galang your way. What is wrong here? What is it that the Guyanese people need to know? What is it they need to know? And I
Yeah.
think they have a right to know.
No, and I think that's the point you were making.
Yes.
Disclaimer: I did see Vice President Jagdeo during the budget debates. I think he came into the building twice. Well, at least I saw him once. And he was gracious enough to come over and chat with me. I think we had about a 10 minutes chat. I'm not at liberty to talk about what we chatted in public. I don't have his permission. So he was there. He didn't come into the chamber and was part of. He wasn't part of the debate, but he was there a couple of evenings. And like I said, I had a chat with him.
Well, I'm
Um,
glad. I'm
yes.
glad you are keeping the details of that conversation to yourself. And I'm glad that he stepped over, and you use a good word there, gracious, to come over and, hey, how you doing, and whatever else. Good to see you.
Yes, yes, it
But
was
here's
very
this.
cordial. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, here is this I want to say.
Uh-huh.
When Azruddin Mohammed, Mr. Mohammed, the Honorable Mr. Mohammed, MP from We Invest in Nationhood, made the statement, I have bankrolled the PPP.
Hmm.
That calls for Dr. Jagdeo to come out of whatever shell or tent or retreat that he was in and say, well, let me have my say on that. Bankroller, PPP, and let that river flow. So I think the fact that he even shied away from that speaks to two things: the truth of what Mr. Mohammed said, or the fact that he may not be equipped with the best tools to counter or to provide a substantial counter to that bankroller claim.
Yeah.
But it's good to see that you saw him. My
Yes,
point is, my
yes.
point is,
Mhm.
we need to know.
Right,
We
right.
need to know.
And that's the larger point you're making is that
Yeah.
this is perhaps the most important government personality. And if he's not functioning as he normally does, then the nation has a right to know. And I think that's the larger point you're making. And I don't think anybody should quarrel with that point. I think we have to improve our political culture in Guyana. Because we live in the kind of society that once you are not upfront, people begin to speculate.
Mhm.
And people speculate all kinds of things. And
Mhm.
then the supporters of the PPP and Mr. Jagdeo will then jump on people. I think Sandra here is saying that we are being negative, and I don't think so, Sandra. As I said, the vice president came over. He called me. He called out to me, and we chatted. I think we had a good 10 minutes chat, and he was not the only PPP person that I chatted with. I think there is a picture making the rounds where I was chatting on the floor with the prime minister, and I took the opportunity to chat with other members of the PPP government because we are legislators together, and I think there are things that we didn't get a chance to talk about during the debates that as fellow legislators, as fellow political people, we should talk about. And I had some very good conversations with members of the government. And I have to say that it's easy for me because I am not for sale. So when I am speaking, when I speak to a member of the other side, I'm talking about policy. I am talking about what can be done for the constituencies that I think that I am part representative of, and those are the kinds of conversations that I have had. And I have to say that a lot of the conversations were encouraging, and that is why I continue to say GHK, that my opposition is not to the individuals, as you remember when you were last here. And I said that if Mr. Jack Dew is sick, I wish him well. And I call him brother because he is my brother. We are countrymen and so forth. And I know sometimes I stretch the limits of some of our supporters here, you know. But I'm prepared to take that blows because, like I said, it is it is their politics that I oppose, not their person, not the human beings. I oppose their politics. Go right ahead. You want to say something?
And it's the way it should be.
Mhm.
It's the way it should be. I do not know how our sister Sandra can say we are negative. We said it's good to hear that the man is not ill. It's good to know that you saw him, and it's better to know that he had the grace about him to come over and say. But I'm also saying, and I think you endorse that, that the Guyanese people have a duty to know
Right.
where a man as important, a political contributor, a leader as important as Dr. Jagdeo is, and that all is well with him, that he'll be back soon. And you know what? It heartens me that you can come on this program and say, this is what happened on the sidelines, around the surroundings of the budget. We've seen the heat and the passions and
Right.
some other things that we didn't want to see and hear, but there was this other side, the human side, the individual and personal side. And I congratulate here openly the people on the PPP side of the aisle who stretched out their hand, who paused and shared a moment of their time with you and others from your side. I think that's held. How can that be improper or unhealthy if we are going to get somewhere, anywhere in this country? We've got to have some, you've heard me most of the time. I say, Brother Jagdeo and Dr. Jagdeo, and you said,
Yes.
and
Yes. Yes.
you carry this thing at a level, but listen, we are, no, sometimes we just get real miserable, all of we, including me. But we are a people who grow up with decency and dignity and class instilled in us, no matter how poor we come from, no matter how poor we are. And we must live that, if only as a tribute to our ancestors. And I'm glad to hear this. And I say, Dr. Jagdeo, you've disappeared, reappeared, and disappeared again. It is time that you reappear full time.
GHK Lall here tonight, Brother GHK Lall, and we're talking, of course, about issues that affect the daily lives of Guyanese. We talked about the budget. We're having a conversation here about relations among and between political adversaries and how we can harness some of that positive energy to move our country to a better place. I mentioned earlier that Stabrook News announced that it's closing its doors after 39 years. I remember in 1986 when Stabrook News came on the scene. And I have had my ups and downs with Stabrook News in the last 6 years. During the budget debate, I am probably the only parliamentarian who was not covered by Stabrook News. My thing, Stabrook News doesn't cover me. They don't cover the WP, and this has been going on since 2020. But it doesn't bother me because every media house has a right to decide who they like and who they don't like. What I do know is that Stabrook News came into being in 1986 in the height of the activism of people like myself who were active in the struggle for free and fair election for an open society. And I count myself, I count Dr. Rupnarayan as persons who were influential in bringing into being the moment for a Stabrook News to emerge. And once Stabrook News emerged, later on, we saw Kaito News coming on stream and other independent media. So I hold the Stabrook News very dearly to my heart. And if I may be biased, I always thought it was the best newspaper in Guyana in the last 5 decades, four decades or so. And so when I read that it was closing its doors, I was saddened. Um, uh, they gave their reasons, the new media landscape, and so on and so forth. But GHK, those of us who have our ears on the ground, know that there is more in the matter than the pestle. And you were out there along with Christopher Ram and others picketing the National Assembly on this matter of the closure of Stabrook News. Talk to us about what is the subtext in the closure of Stabrook News.
Well, the picketing was about the budget in general,
Mm,
how it was hostile to the poor.
yeah.
It was about Stabrook News's closure, which happened on that same day, the
Yes.
announcement,
Yes.
and the $40 million for the Access to Information Office. That
Yes.
was very, very specific. It's so, I will say this here, a couple of pieces of personal information. I have never met Anand Prasad or spoken to him until the picket line in front of the Access to Information Office last year
Mhm.
on East Street. And he never missed one. And he was to be at that one there, the last one. But it so happens that day he's got to talk to staff members. I mean, that was the right thing to do.
Right.
It also, it's 15, 16 years ago, but I was a columnist, Sunday columnist for 1 year at Stabrook News. They thought something about what I was writing as a mere letter columnist, not even living here, to say, come and fill this role. And when my wife died overseas, I said to them, look, I can't do this anymore. And that was that. Since then, so many other doors have opened for me after a sabbat. Stabrook News has been a respected voice in this country. There are times when I've disagreed with it. There are times when I'm pretty sure they've taken flack for me because why you giving the man so much space? How come he think? What kind of collusion going on? I went on another program, Dr. Hines, that you know about, Globespan, where somebody said, you and Anand Prasadas collude. I never spoke to the man until the picket line. Never
Hmm.
met him,
Hmm.
but we colluded. Huh? Because it means that you must be doing something that that contributes somewhere to the quality of a newspaper that was really a classy and quality outfit,
Yeah.
despite the fact that the government of the day does not like it, and when they're in opposition, it's a good test. Somehow expect Stabrook News to beat the drum for it or the things that it stands for. A beacon of light. I don't know what we're gonna. We have Kaichur News and Village Voice and Demerara Waves, and HG TV. That's Travis Chase and Gordon Mosley's New Source. I think that's what it's called.
Yes. Yes.
We have those. We have programs like yours, but what's the world in Guyana without Stabrook
With
News?
those Stabrook News. Yes.
And with the DPI, and we just spoke about the return, the hoped for return of Dr. Jack there, Thursday afternoon bacchanals
Right.
with his press conferences, right? So here's this. Part of the thing, yes, there's the new media, digitalization. Terence Campbell told me that himself and other people, and you've got your digital platforms, am I right?
Yes.
Yes. I am still away from there, but I think it's very close now to me going, shall we say, digital,
Hmm.
which which could be, the intended consequence for this government. They may say, well, oh God, not there, he ain't gone there. But
You ain't going there. Social media. Yeah.
but you ads, ads, state ads. Advertisements are the lifeblood of it's the oxygen of a newspaper.
Hmm.
And when the monies are withheld or staggered to such an extent that they come in a trickle, what you're doing is you don't have to take away the ads. When you stagger the payment for the ads or withhold them for an inordinately long time, you are strangling that newspaper.
Yeah.
That is a constructive equivalent of a constructive ad boycott, if I may say so, and be allowed to get away with that. Because if you take away the ads, there's no money coming. The ads are coming, but no money's coming still, or not on the time. And we're not talking about a delay for a month, or you pay this one and then you're talking about millions piling up, and a little bit is paid, a small fraction, and then more is incurred, and so you're on this carousel, 18, 90, $100 million. Which newspaper in this country with paper hard copy readership can survive for long at that level? No, I've heard that it says that people could have stood up and bought Starbuck News and gone out and picket and whatever else. All that is well and good, but it's water under the bridge. I
Hmm.
think I think that look, one of something, the money was a part of it and the circulation because of digitalization. Let's not get away from that. Big newspapers in the United States, where both of us have spent years, have gone, have had to say, well, we've got to cut the cord. We've got to cut the cord because it's just not feasible for us to continue like we in the traditional way. And the Starbrook News is the latest and most prominent victim of that in this region, I may say, because it really did earn a reputation for itself. I'm going to miss the paper, but like I said, I think this is prompting me now to go where I didn't want to go, which is cyberspace.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that now, the whatever happens there will happen, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it's in the hands of it's beyond, it's outside of my grasp now.
Yeah, and Sherrod Duncan did ask in the National Assembly about the money owed to Stabrook News and whether it is budgeted for. And the answer, after a little going around, was no. And so clearly there is um, an intentional design on the part of the government to strangle the newspaper.
Excuse me for 1 minute.
Yeah,
It's I wanted to say that, but I thought I was talking too long.
yeah,
So I wrote a piece about that, where I took the Honorable Prime Minister,
yes,
Brigadier General retired Mark Anthony Phillips, to task, because there he was when Sherrod Duncan asked the question, "Hey, what about this 100 million?" Oh, to Starbuck News, and there he was, him and whomever, they item 6321, right? They're going through papers and they're turning up papers and turning back. And the president and the prime minister then give us the stock answer. I'm going to paraphrase here, use my own words. This government has a responsibility. This government lives up to its
yeah,
responsibility.
yeah.
If it owes Sabric News $100 million, bet your money that it will be paid. Well, what happened to the money? Well, why do you have to even discuss this in Parliament? Huh? Why do we have to discuss? Anybody's got to raise a question, and I'm not laughing. Why does anybody have to raise a question about $100 million in arrears for Starbuck News or any other media house in this country? And the
Yes.
Prime Minister now goes into his dance about responsibility. Well, if you have a responsibility, then do your duty, sir.
Yeah, yeah, but we know the Stabrook News gets on the government skin. One
Yeah. Hmm.
remembers the vice president at his press conferences, really going after the media in general, but
Hmm.
always had a special place for Stabrook News. Stabrook News editorials are biting. They're biting editorials, and
Hmm.
it really got under the skin of the government. But governments are not supposed to use the power that they derive from people to hammer a media house like that, or any media house.
The
It's
media house is not there to be your friend.
That's right. That's right. That's right. As I said here, Tablet News doesn't cover me. It
Yeah.
doesn't cover my party. Um, and I have a problem with that. But I will struggle any day for the right of Stabrook News to publish. And I really do hope that Stabrook News doesn't go away completely. That perhaps they can still publish an online edition of the newspaper along the lines of Demerara Waves and
Mhm.
News Source and so on, because they brought a quality.
Yeah.
They brought a quality to journalism in Ghana that I think is, with all due respect to the rest of the media, that is not matched
Yeah.
in the media circle. And so um, I am pleading with the powers that be over there not to go away completely, because with Stabrook News, the government gets away with it. You can imagine without a Stabrook News, what will
I think
happen?
I
Yeah,
think fully digital in the circumstances is the best option. As a matter of fact,
yes,
might be the only option.
right, right.
Yeah.
GHK Lall here tonight. We have been examining a range of issues. GHK, there's anything that you want to address before we go that I didn't get to ask you about?
I want to go foreign.
Yes, go right ahead.
We talked a lot about local here.
Yeah,
A black man goes, and he's not even fully black, he's half black,
yeah,
goes into the White House, President of the United States. And we are still talking about apes.
yes, yes, yes,
And
yes,
then to disown it, well, personally disown it, says somebody in the house put it up there. I mean, you're responsible, you're the CEO, you're the chief executive. So you've got to say, look, this is wrong, this is not what we represent, and I denounce it and I disown it. At least let that standard be. And now to add insult to injury, the same chief executive whose name is a bitter taste to pass through my lips turns around and reposts some right wing podcaster denouncing Michelle Obama as anti white racist. So instead of you calming, helping to reduce tensions, helping to reduce the intensity of passions, you're refueling it. You are refueling it and inflaming it further. Dr. Hines, I know you're in Arizona. I don't like where America is today. I don't like where America is today. And it's a sad testimony that it can be so openly racist, demagogic, and it's like the most normal thing in the world.
yep,
Or it's taken hold. Yes, there are people objecting and there are decisions being made, and the media is alive to it, but it just seems to have a life of its own. And the second foreign personality that I will be remiss not to talk about, Jesse Jackson, the
yes,
Reverend Jesse Jackson. I mean, he was in the shadow of Martin and Ralph and those guys, but he made his own special, extraordinary contribution to the civil rights struggle. And in their passing, he was the torchbearer in my book. You know, yes, we had Andrew Young and others, but Jesse Jackson was the torchbearer, and he was Obama before Obama, and he didn't get as far. Run, Jesse, run, and I mean, like King, like Dr. King, Reverend Dr. King, Reverend Jesse. I mean, the arms of the state goes out of its way to label and derogate and to destroy because of who those men were.
hmm,
And I come right back to Guyana and I say, when you see and I say to the government, Dr. Ali, Mr. Nandalal, Dr. Jagdeo, all brothers, whatever, regardless whatever they think about me, regardless of what their people do to me, all brothers, I say to them. When you look at a black man or you look at an Indian man, hear his hurt, listen to his pain, and know that he's not talking for the sake of talking. He's not reading from a script, a prepared script. He's speaking, he or she is speaking from the heart because they care about Guyanese. And their care does not have a condition where color features. It's about this soil from which we all came. It's about this mash and Christmas and Easter and whatever else, and Pagua and Diwali and Eid that we celebrate. We can do it together and be better for that, for all those celebrations. But don't look upon us as enemies. We are people who are striving for a better Guyana, a better mentality, a better use of our intellectual gifts, our moral gifts, our ethical gifts. And I say, if that could happen, or a fraction of that could happen, where there's an outreach of hands and a meeting of the minds, then we will have a better Guyana. Maybe not in my lifetime, but one day that dream will be fulfilled. With that, I say good night.
Good night to you, my brother GHK Lall. Thank you very much for coming on tonight. It's a difficult night because there's so much happening. We're mourning the loss of Dr. Rupert Rupnarain, but it's also a night of tremendous light because our people are reveling on Mashramani Day, reminding us that republic status means something. Thank you very much, my brother.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
And good night. And thank you to all those of you who have joined us tonight. We are going to be off tomorrow night. I am going to see my mother and to spend the day with her. As I said here weeks ago, that she has not been in the best of health in recent time. So I want to spend tomorrow with her. And so we're going to take tomorrow night off. But we'll be back on Wednesday night. As I said, we are going to spend the coming days mourning as we must the loss of Dr. Rupert Rupnarain, WPA co-leader, Guyanese patriot, and please keep his family in your prayers. His was a life spent in the service of the Guyanese people, and we are a gracious people, and we do honor that. I'll see you all on Wednesday night. Those of you who are still on the road, be safe out there. Have a good time. Those of you who are drinking, make sure that you have a designated driver and all of that kind of stuff, because it's crazy on the road there in Guyana. I shall see you all.